Our website, drystacked.com, is your complete resource information area. So be sure to check it out if you're interested in learning more about dry stack blocks and home building. This site has it all.
We also offer a dry stack construction handbook. It's a very comprehensive book. It's 108 pages in length. And I'll just scroll down just a little bit. And it covers these topics in case you're interested right here. These topics. And we'll take a look at the back cover. And it has more information about the book and what its goals are. So if you're looking for this type of a book, this is the only one out there. And it's approximately $35, which is a reasonable price for all the information contained. If we go back to the top for a second, take a quick look at the direct index, table of contents. I'll just step down a page at a time here. It's all broken down into logical chapters, and there's tons of pictures and illustrations. Here's a lot of the illustrations. This is a typical page. There's a couple more pages. So the book is very detailed, very extensive in the information. There's no other book like it, and it will serve you well if you're really serious about building a home. This book will save you many mistakes and many errors and save you a lot of money. So I highly recommend you get this book and use it if you want to build a dry stack block home. Okay, this video is going to demonstrate dry stacked block construction issues when you're dealing with corners and when you're dealing with outcrops and incrops in the wall. So basically an outcrop is when the wall cuts in one block length here. That gives stability to the wall. The wind pressure can't push the wall across these two block lengths here, so it makes the wall very sturdy. If you have a long wall, you usually put one or more outcrops into the wall. When you place an outcrop, you place it so that on the inside you won't see it. So this would be, let's say, a dining room right here, and then this wall would be a wall here and maybe a bedroom over here. So the room would not see the outcrop unless you want the room to see the outcrop. Then you could also do it that way. So that's what outcrops are about, adding strength to a concrete block wall. Another issue we have to discuss is the difference between a physical concrete block, 16 by 8 inch concrete block, and an installed 16 by 8 inch concrete block. As you may know, a concrete block is typically 15 inches and 5/8 inches. It's not 16 inches. They allow 3/8 inch for the mortar which goes between the blocks. In our case, there is no mortar. But we have two other issues going on here. You can never place two blocks so they exactly touch each other on all four corners. There's always just a little bit of slop in there you can't get rid of. So we add a 1/16 of an inch for each block to allow for that block mating space you can never get rid of. Up here we have a picture of a wall growth factor. As you stack the blocks higher, they get more and more uneven due to block irregularities. And if you get about 7 rows, the wall starts growing. If you notice that if these are just barely touching on the tips, then it's that much longer than the blocks at the bottom of the wall, which are setting pretty much exactly level. So this wall growth factor, to achieve this, we add another 1/16 of an inch to each installed block length. That gives us a total installed block length of 15 inches and 6/8 or 3/4. So that's the installed block length, accounting for the wall growth factor. In fact, you can't get two blocks to actually touch uniformly in all four corners. So when you're working on floor plans, a half block, an installed half block, will be half of that, 7 and 7/8 inches. So that's half of this number right here. So the installed width of a block is 8 inches plus that 1/16, because there'll be something next to it right here. This width is considered 8 inches and 1/16 because we can't get them perfectly to touch. So now you have three dimensions here, which are installed dimensions when you're dealing with concrete dry stacked blocks. Now that we have that all behind us, we can go back to our 3-block configuration and our 4-block configuration of an outcrop. Notice when you add up these lengths, the block length, the block width, you come up with 2 foot 7 and 7/8 inches is the distance from this outside edge of this wall to the inside edge of this wall for this outcrop. If you go over here and measure this block configuration, just two blocks in series, you get a different number. You get 2 foot 7 and 4/8 inches. So there's 3/8 of an inch difference between these two lengths. So if this is your first row and you mortar your first row onto your foundation, you're all fat, dumb, and happy, and you get ready to place the second row, you run into a problem because this length is 3/8 of an inch longer than this length, so you can't fit them in there, so you got major problems now. To solve that problem, you simply add 3/8 gap between these two blocks when you place the first row and mortar it onto the foundation or the footer. By adding 3/8 gap here, it makes these two numbers the same. Therefore, this block configuration will stack between this outside edge and inside edge of this wall. But if you get to 3/8, you're in deep doo-doo because you have 3/8 of an inch where you can't fix it. You cannot fix that transition. So the purpose of this video was to point out to you that these rows alternate. This might be row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, all the way up to the top. Or you could start with this as for row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Anytime you start with this row as row 1, you better add the 3/8 of an inch, because if you don't, then this configuration will not fit within the same space. So good luck with your project. One more tip considering these same issues has to do with just a normal corner where this block isn't here. It's just a corner. But if you notice that the installed half block length is 7 7/8, but installed width is 8 1/16. That's 3/16 difference. So on your floor plans, if you want the wall to be a certain distance, you better throw in, we rounded off the nearest 1/4 of an inch. Throw an extra 1/4 of an inch onto that wall dimension to allow for this corner block. If your wall corners like this, then it won't come into play. But if it corners like this, you got to add that 1/4 of an inch to the whole wall distance. Now most of us aren't worried about a 1/4 of an inch on a 30-foot wall. But we just throw it out there anyway in case you were wondering about it. And in case you're trying to do very precise work. So good luck with your project. One item that we want to explain in the dry stack construction handbook is Appendix A. So I'll scroll down here and bring up Appendix A. This is a spreadsheet table, and it's designed for people that want to build their home. It converts block units into wall dimensions. And these wall dimensions, let's use an example of, say we want to do a 24-foot wall. So we look up 24 foot 3 3/8 is 18.5 blocks. 18 blocks gives us 23 foot 7 4/8. So you have to pick one of those. You always want to use half block increments for any wall dimension, so you don't have to cut any blocks when you actually build the home. Once again, you have to remember that up here you must add a 1/4 of an inch if you have a corner block involved in that wall segment. While we're here, there's 3 information types here. End of block, from the beginning of the wall to the end of the block, is feet and inches. It's also just inches here. We have the cell center of this last block in feet and inches from the beginning of the wall. And then the next cell center, which is the first cell of the next block, in feet and inches from the beginning of the wall segment. So if you want to put in your rebar, if you want to go about, let's say every 8 feet, you put in a piece of rebar, if there were no windows or doors. Come down here like 7 foot 10 inches, 6 blocks, you'd throw in a rebar. That rebar would be 7 foot 6 and 5/8 inches from the beginning of that wall segment. So this makes it real easy to place your rebar and real easy to determine the exact wall dimensions which support the half block increments. So I just wanted you to be aware that we do have such a table in the book, and it makes your life so much easier when you're actually trying to design and build a house. So good luck with your project.